The Lexus LX600. Is this car a soul-crushing disappointment to Land Cruiser enthusiasts, or is this latest offering a worthy descendant of its forefathers? With a new Toyota Land Cruiser or Lexus LX only being released once every 10 years, the introduction of a new model is a pretty big deal. When the 300 Series Land Cruiser was revealed on June 9th, 2021, I eagerly watched the live stream and was disappointed to hear that we would not be receiving that model here in the United States. After wiping away my tears of disappointment, I was happy to see that not all hope was lost. While we may not have been receiving the Land Cruiser stateside, we would be receiving the Lexus LX600. It is important, however, to understand the context of what this model is.
Since 2002, the global Land Cruiser lineup has been as follows. The core model is a full-size, for example, the 200 series. But Toyota also takes all this technology and puts it in a smaller platform, the Land Cruiser Prado. In addition, they also take the Land Cruiser and give it Lexus bodywork and a more luxurious interior and call it the LX. With the Land Cruiser Prado, they give it the same treatment and call it the GX. They do also have a model that's called the 70 series, which is the most utilitarian model, but unfortunately, we've never been offered this here in the United States. Generally, while all the Toyota models are considered Land Cruisers, the full-size model is the car that's viewed as the true Land Cruiser, with the Prado being more of a Luigi to the Land Cruiser's Mario. In the previous generation, in the United States, we were offered the full-size Land Cruiser and both Lexus models, with the Prado not being offered in our market. With the new generation of Land Cruisers, Toyota has followed the same recipe with Land Cruisers, Prados, and the LX and GX. But they did not offer the full-size Land Cruiser in the United States. They did offer the Prado for the first time, and in addition to the GX, we still got the LX.
So yes, the Lexus LX600 is the only way to get the full-size 300 Series Land Cruiser here in the United States. And what a car it is. While I would say that the new Land Rover Defender is more revolutionary because it changed completely from its predecessor, the 300 Series Land Cruiser is a great evolution of the 200 Series. A majority of what we see is very similar to the 200 Series. A body-on-frame construction, a solid rear axle, it even has a center locking differential. The biggest change over the previous model in the United States is the switch from the naturally aspirated 5.7-liter V8 to the twin-turbocharged 3.4-liter V6. The good news is it has more horsepower and torque than its predecessor, and that the transmission it is mated to has 4 more gears. For Land Cruiser enthusiasts like myself, this engine change has been a little controversial. People are concerned about the reliability and longevity now that the big V8 is gone.
You have to remember though, in the United States, only the 100 and 200 series Land Cruisers had V8s. Every other model has had an inline 6-cylinder engine. So the V6 in the 300 series is not a big departure historically.
Another concern is that the addition of turbochargers will add complexity to servicing and will hinder reliability. And while I do think this is true, the engine does feel pretty under stress, so hopefully Toyota's reliability will pull through.
The early LX600s also were affected by Toyota's twin-turbo V6 recall. But later models such as this 2024 seem to have been built after this issue was resolved. Was this engine a deal breaker for any of you? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm not gonna lie, while it's still a great car, the 2016 to 2021 Lexus LX570 is not the best looking SUV. In base form, it doesn't look bad from the front, but I've never liked how it looks from the rear. And with the optional body kit parts, it really looks gaudy. Coming from that to the LX600, it actually starts to look pretty nice.
While looking different than the underlying Land Cruiser, I feel like the design is sleek and cohesive and follows the essence of the Land Cruiser. Year over year, Lexus's grills have been growing in size and prominence in the design. The standard finish of the LX600 grille is silver and can be overwhelming. This model is also available with an appearance package, which gives it a very dark gray, almost black appearance. It helps the grille become more subtle and not dominate the front of the car. Even if you don't have the appearance package, you can just buy the grille from the parts department and have the dealer put it on your car, like this owner did.
There is also an F-Sport grille, which doesn't look bad, but it does look like you watched Too Fast, Too Furious at age 14, and from that point, have not matured at all. There are 5 different wheel options for the LX. The Luxury and the Ultra Luxury get these 22-inch wheels in different finishes depending on the model, and the F-Sport and Premium trim each have their own unique design.
The best wheels, in my humble opinion, are the previously optional 18-inch wheels or the wheels on the new LX700H Overtrail. These help the LX look a little bit more Land Cruiser-esque, and then also help with ride comfort due to that bigger sidewall. Over the last 10 years, I feel like every car you see on the road is either black, white, silver, or gray. And while a car can be exciting in one of these colors, the color itself will never elicit excitement. Luckily for the LX, beyond the normal color palette, Lexus has graced us with this beautiful color, Nori Green. This is by far the best color that the LX comes in, but also the most rare. According to dealer records, approximately only 5% of new LXs being delivered to dealers are painted Nori Green. The biggest disappointment on the exterior of the LX has been this: the removal of the split folding tailgate and the introduction of a boring rear hatch. You would think that the folding tailgate would be inconvenient at times, but you'd be surprised at how often it actually ends up getting used. They did leave you this little plastic ledge as a consolation, but in reality, I feel like it would just soil the undercarriage of your trousers. If you're like me and have watched every review of the LX that's been posted on the internet, you'll notice that many mainstream journalists have complained about the interior on this car, saying it feels like a Land Cruiser but slightly more upscale. But that's the thing they don't realize. For a good number of people, that's exactly what they want, a Land Cruiser, but with a slightly nicer interior.
They're buying an LX because they're fans of Lexus's approach to building cars. Luxurious interiors and elegant styling, but also because it is based on Toyota's designs and electronics. You know that every time you put down the driver's window, it's going to roll back up. In a lot of places, you don't have the most cutting-edge technology, and that's because everything is last-gen's tech, but tested and built to the highest degree of reliability.
You still get the most important tech: lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, Apple CarPlay. That's the recent technology that I feel like is pretty much a non-negotiable on any new car at this point. But outside of that, everything else is just a luxury. Despite this being the largest Lexus model ever produced, the cabin does feel a bit snug around you. You definitely have enough space, but in an ideal world, I feel like you would have a bit more real estate. That'd probably be my biggest complaint about the LX, but no car can be perfect. For the 2022 to 2024 LX, Lexus actually offered the option to have conventional suspension as opposed to the now standard hydraulic suspension.
This was big news for off-roading enthusiasts, because due to the complexity and programming that comes with AHC, you aren't able to replace your hydraulic suspension with upgraded components like Old Man Emu on the modern LXs.
I'm glad that the option of AHC or conventional suspension existed, but I think I would go the hydraulic route just so that you can have that adjustability of a few inches for either off-roading or helping your grandmother get in the car.
After driving previous Land Cruisers, coming to the 300 series LX600, the most surprising thing is how quiet the cabin is. You could be driving down the highway at 90 miles an hour, and still hear somebody whispering slander about you from the back seat. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a skeptic of this engine when they first announced that the new 300 series would have a twin-turbo V6. Coming from the big, torquey V8s, I don't know, it made me feel like they were going to be wringing as much power as they could out of a small displacement engine. Despite making all this additional horsepower and torque, the engine actually doesn't feel that overstressed. I feel like with the 10-speed transmission, they're able to keep the engine in the optimal power band pretty well. Sometimes when you're at lower speeds, it does feel like it's shifting gears a lot, being that it has 10 speeds. But I would say along with that, the hydraulic suspension on the LX600 does a great job of helping this car handle this massive weight. Coming from the 200 to the 300 series, they actually shaved off a few hundred pounds, so that definitely helps. With this LX600, the car that you buy and you love driving off the dealership showroom floor is the same car you get to experience and love 20 years down the line. The build quality holds up over time, and you can see these cars with 300,000 miles still having a big following. While a Land Rover Defender is great for the 3 months you have it out of the year, for the remaining 9 months when you're driving a white Land Rover Discovery loaner car, that definitely takes away from the joy of ownership. If I was buying a regular LX600 for myself, I'd probably buy the Overtrail wheels that are 18 inches, have a thicker sidewall, because while you may lose some of the handling, the improvement in ride quality with some of the bumps would definitely be a welcome addition.
When considering an LX600, the biggest question that people will be asking themselves is it worth the almost $30,000 price increase over the Lexus GX?
The GX technically has the same engine as the LX, albeit detuned. It can also be gotten with 7 seats, and that third row actually has better headroom than that of the LX. You could also argue that it has more exciting styling than the LX. The LX, however, is the full-size model, so despite the exterior dimensions actually being bigger on the GX, due to bulging fenders in the roof rails, the cabin and passenger cells in the LX feel bigger overall. The LX's engine also gets an additional 60 horsepower over the GX's, and the LX's interior feels a big step up. You also have better off-roading technology, the ride quality's better, and most importantly, in my opinion, you are driving the closest thing to a real Land Cruiser here in the United States.
With this latest generation, the gap between the GX and the LX really has been narrowed, but if you can't afford it, the LX still is the car to buy. Yes, it is disappointing that we did not receive the full-size 300 series Land Cruiser here in the United States, but let's be honest, the LX600 is a great choice to be left with. It's one of those cars where, when you know, you know. At the end of the day, the LX600 really is America's Land Cruiser, despite what the marketing people have convinced the nation of. Thank you so much for watching, and if you found this video mildly entertaining, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. You can click the links on screen to view additional videos of me rambling on cars, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and hope you have a great day.